Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm Chris Smith, and I am Vice Chair of the Planning and Sustainability Commission. But I am required by city code to tell you that I'm also a registered lobbyist and authorized spokesperson for an organization that we're flying under the banner of No More Freeway Expansions. That's a group we formed in the last few weeks to highlight this issue for you, and I'm going to focus my remarks on that. You're going to hear the phrase this afternoon, I think, quite a few times, that urban freeway expansion has never solved congestion. And we believe that the I-5 Rose Quarter project in the Central City Plan, the largest single public investment in the 20 years contemplated in the Central City Plan, is ill-advised. You have a packet in front of you that has 24 comp plan policies that I believe that this contradicts. I won't go through every single one of the 24, but I will highlight some of the major ones. The first, and appropriately the first goal in the comp plan around transportation is safety. And this is the encapsulation of our Vision Zero policy, and it says that we need to have laser-like focus on traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries. This is the map from our Vision Zero work. And the thing, at this scale, it's not really very useful, I'm sorry, but what I do want to highlight is that the freeway corridor is not a high crash corridor. One of the motivations touted for this project is safety, but in fact, the crashes that happen on the freeway are typically rear end and sideswipe collisions that result in property damage or minor injuries. Vision Zero demands that we focus on fatalities and serious injuries. We had 44 fatalities in the city last year in 2016, and sadly we're on track to have the same number roughly this year. This investment is not addressing those. Many of those fatalities happen on ODOT facilities elsewhere in the city, places like 82nd and Outer Powell, and we believe that ODOT should be spending their money in those places. Being environmentally sustainable and hitting carbon targets is another important part of our transportation policy. This contradicts those goals both for greenhouse gases and for air toxins. We believe that's a serious conflict.
You're a commissioner, so please go ahead.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Goal 9E asks us to focus on equity. I read in the Tribune this morning that the city's incremental revenue from the transportation bill will be about $30 million a year, and highlights that that's not sufficient to deal with our transportation investment gaps. The legislature has authorized $30 million a year for this project alone. So we have an investment equal to the rest of the money that Portland will see from the transportation bill focused on one area when we know that our most deficient areas are in East Portland. So I would argue that this does not meet the equity hurdle because it's investing money not where it's needed most. And I will skip ahead a bit in the interest of time. We have a very strong modal policy statement in the comprehensive plan that says we should be prioritizing walking, cycling, and transit. But in fact, this project puts a huge amount of dollars, $450 million, on the last priority in the system, which is single occupancy vehicles, which are the primary users of this stretch of freeway. The comp plan does address the question of congestion and basically focuses in on congestion pricing as the solution to that, not adding capacity. So while we appreciate Commissioner Saltzman's statement insisting on congestion pricing, we believe it's irresponsible to design a project until you know what effect congestion pricing has had. We believe that once pricing is implemented, you won't need a construction project. And a very important but very wonky issue is the mixed modal, the multimodal mixed use area, the so-called MMA. And that is something that the comp plan calls for. It's basically the idea that ODOT shouldn't be involved in land use planning in the central city. They have that purview because we want to make sure that land use planning doesn't disrupt state transportation facilities. But I think, and there's sort of a deal here that ODOT said, well, if you do this project, we'll give you the MMA designation. I think that's a terrible deal for Portland. I think the MMA designation is supported, in fact, by this central city plan that does so much to meet the city's and the state's needs and has very good land use planning. That alone is justification for why we have earned the MMA status, and we shouldn't allow ourselves to be boxed into a deal where we trade something that contradicts our policies to get that. So I'm going to skip ahead here. I want to hit a couple of key ones. Commissioner Fish, I want to highlight for you the impervious surfaces policy. This project would represent almost 2 new lane miles plus shoulders of impervious surface. Somehow the stormwater from that's going to have to be captured and treated. I don't know if we can do it in bioswales on a freeway, but somebody has to figure that out. And I will close with climate because that is, in this week when Houston's underwater and Oregon is burning, I don't think any of us can deny that climate change is a critical priority, and our investments, all our investments must move our climate goals. Making a $500 million investment that sends climate in the wrong direction is simply unsupportable in the current environment. So I will stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Thanks, Chris, for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great.